happy Halloween to all of you people watching. It's actually tomorrow, but you may be watching this tomorrow or listening. I'm Lionel.
This is true.
Yes, I'm Lionel from Toronto. And
Robert from Nashville, Tennessee.
so we're going to try to be a little bit more jovial, maybe. Maybe not jovial, but we might be a little less on the serious side because everybody wants to have fun. It's Halloween. You're getting ready to hand out candy, take the kids out and go get some candy, steal your kids' candy, whatever. And don't tell me you never did. Don't tell me you never snuck a Kit Kat.
I've already started.
Yeah, but your kids are adults, man. You got grandbabies. What did you steal from your grandbabies, man?
Oh, I didn't steal anything. I just took that out of the candy bowl. So
do they bring the grandbabies over for Halloween for a gift bag from Papa?
They didn't last year. I forgot what they did last year, but this year they are. They're coming over tomorrow. We're having dinner and then taking the grandkids out. And
yeah. That's always a thing. Halloween was always such a huge tradition. Both our countries. It's not just here, obviously, but the way we do Halloween is always been so tied to the same basic traditions. But the one thing that I remember is that there were certain things that were done similar and maybe slightly differently that I want to say, thankfully, are not done so much anymore. I don't want to say at all. But I believe it was like tonight, not Halloween, had different names in different regions in both the United States and Canada. I don't know what it was called everywhere, but I know that in Manitoba I think they called it Gate Night, not Date, Gate. And
that's interesting.
People would go out and either egg or TP things. Why?
Kids will be kids.
It was a thing. It was some of those. Sometimes it was adults. I think it's something that started around the 50s or 60s or something like that. But apparently that was also huge in places like Detroit, where I think it was mainly eggs or something. They threw eggs at people's houses or something like that. I have to look that up. It was, like I said, it wasn't necessarily everywhere. But thankfully, that's not a thing because who wants to have to clean that up? Especially It's Halloween. And now, because back in the day, you would put like a ghost on your porch, and stickers in the windows. And people would, be screaming trick or treat or Halloween apples or something. Don't ask me why they did that in Winnipeg. Halloween apples. You got to sing it. Oh God, it's almost embarrassing. I hated going to the door, and everyone else, everywhere else in the world is going trick or treat, and they're all having fun, right? And I got to go do and go Halloween apples. What the heck am I doing here?
So did anybody in Canada ever give out hockey pucks for instead of candy?
You would go there, wouldn't you? You would go there. Who knows? Maybe. But yeah, no, we did our trick or treat. But things were, like I said, it was different. But now, everybody likes to, not everybody, but a lot of people like to put a lot of stuff on the lawn and in the windows and in their garage and set up these things. And I just should mention, we did this last year, and this is now a couple of years after pandemic. And everything had gone back to the normal the previous year, but we still had next to nobody because nobody further down from where we lived, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people even turned their lights on, yet alone they had something inviting like a pumpkin on the steps or something like that. No jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones on our block. So you had to go 3 houses this way and cross the street, and then you back and forth and over there. And so the kids would just look and they go, well, there's like 15 houses this way to go to and only one there. Let's not even bother. And, I think one year we had, I counted 11 groups of kids. It was maybe 22 kids in total. The following year, there was about 35 or something. Last year, after I think the first kid came, within the first hour, I stopped trying to count. We were well over 100 by this point. The candy ran out, and we went out. Somebody went out and got more candy. Started digging in the house for stuff that we had. There's a box of chocolate bars in the freezer or something. Go get that. It's so this time it's like unbelievably well prepared, because now, it started with a couple of neighbors around the corner. They put more stuff. And so we started putting more stuff. Well, it's actually, I shouldn't say we. It's not so much me. It's other people in the house. And I'll help out a little. But now there's animatronics in the yard and stuff. And the guy down the street builds his own animatronic stuff. And so he's got like, people coming out of coffins, popping up out of coffins and stuff like that. And the kids love that. And then they go across the street to the guy who's got a bunch of inflatables, but his whole yard is covered with it. Then they come around the corner and they see our house here and it's got all this stuff. And this year you got to walk up and go through the walkway and get into the open garage and all the stuff lining the walls into the garage where there'll be 2 or 3 people sitting handing out the candy and a bunch of animatronics and stuff going on in there too as well. Yeah. So it's more fun for everybody. It turns out to be great, and everyone wants to take pictures and videos, and we have more fun with it. And I'm guessing that you see a lot more of that too. People lighting up their yards and their houses more so.
Yeah, it's ever since COVID now, it's gotten kind of rivaling Christmas lights in a lot of respect,
yeah,
I know obviously COVID's, a few years out now, but it's literally taken a couple of years for things to kind of really get back into the swing of things as far as that kind of activity goes. So really the last couple of years, it's been kind of back to normal. But yeah, definitely you have a lot more, and like you see, like there's one store we had that had like a 9-foot skeleton, that you could erect in your yard, and it's just, it's crazy. So yeah, people really take it pretty serious.
Well, we got one that's I think 7 or 7.5 feet or something like that, and the head twists all the way around, and it's holding bowling pins or something. And another
my brother-in-law
body, and it spins around. It has a head, a face on both sides of the head.
Yeah. My brother-in-law gets pretty serious about the Halloween and the Christmas stuff. More so Christmas than the Halloween, but like at the Christmas time, he's got one of those houses like everybody wants to drive by because it's lasers shooting everywhere, and the songs on your radio and the talking mouths, and he hijacks one of the FM stations illegally.
Well, no, wait, that's not illegal. Wait a minute, it's not illegal. There's broadcast frequencies that you're allowed to use without license as long as the power stays below a certain. That's very common.
But when he's 15 minutes down the road and I can almost pick his up from my
you okay, all right. Well, you probably shouldn't out the poor guy now, right?
It's funny, but yeah, he gets pretty serious.
There's a lot of that. In fact, I'm thinking this year I want to actually maybe go and find out how many places in and around the Greater Toronto area do this. I know there's more than one. Although the original one, which was called Lindsay Lights, which is one of the ones that started off the fad for everybody in North America, by the way. They may be the originals. I'm not even sure. I'd have to look that up. I don't think they're doing theirs anymore, and it's too bad because I first discovered that like 20 some odd years ago, 20 years ago. I was still in Winnipeg. And I never knew where they were. I thought it was an American city for the longest time. And then I found out years after I moved here that they were probably only 25 minutes away from where I am now by car. If that. Oh, that's traffic. It's probably 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes in light traffic to get to where they are. But I don't think I think they stopped doing it years ago, which is too bad. But I know there's got to be others. I'd like to find out, and I'd love to go see some of them in person and shoot some video. My own.
Yeah.
But that said, it takes a lot of technology. Back in the day when Lindsay Lights did theirs originally, it was all your regular incandescent Christmas light bulbs and stuff.
Yeah.
And the amount of computing power it needed, considering computing power wasn't much for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's all LEDs. Use way less power to get way more lights. And you can write programs, do it right from your phone. Sitting in your car and wirelessly activate everything.
It's pretty sophisticated now.
Yeah, it is. So segueing on the technology thing, we'll talk about AI. Now, a lot of people complained a lot about how, say when the Pixel 9 Pro XL came out, oh, there's certain things in there, AI and Gemini, it's not quite fully baked yet. It's missing a few features, and it's gained a number of those features just since then, since August, and it's still gaining way more. And Gemini model, there's apparently they're going to be announcing a new one sometime, probably by the end of the year. And so is, oh, help me out here. What's the matter with me? You'd think it was
Chat
Monday morning.
GPT.
No, the parent company, but yeah, you're on the right track.
Oh, OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah. Apparently, they're both making huge announcements on the next model, which is every time they make an announcement, it's usually a giant leap, and it has been a giant leap every time they've done it. And they've done it, I think, 3 times in the last calendar year each, and they have been big. So here's the thing that I'm thinking: Google's going to be able to get a lot of that new stuff in probably into the new year at some point within Gemini, and it's going to be the difference of how much you can do in the phone. But it's still going to take a Pixel 10 and the Tensor G, what is it, 5, I believe. It's going to be the TSMC made chip, where that one is like actually going to finally be able to keep up with the top Samsungs and the top iPhones in actual power and ability. At that point, the AI will be able to be done almost exclusively on the device, with the power of still being able to do the cloud computing alongside of it. That's going to be a huge deal. Right now, Apple is doing their on-device stuff. However, even after they give you most of the stuff well into next year, as opposed to by December, it still will lack a number of things. There'll be a couple of things that I'm actually a little jealous I don't get to do. But most of what they're offering now and will be offering is already available on a Pixel or a Samsung or both. Right. And like we have Magic Rewrite. Unfortunately, Magic Rewrite only works in the messaging app. They can do that very similar thing anywhere where you can write in an iPhone. So I'm a little jealous of that. I admit it. However, there's no way that both Google and or Samsung, and probably together, won't actually update probably sometime in the new year to allow that to be more common, like basically write it anywhere. It's something they basically could just put in the keyboard. You write it into the keyboard.
You would think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, certainly Samsung, because I mean, even the S23, never mind the S24 and the upcoming S25, have more than enough power to be able to handle a larger amount of on-device AI. So I would be surprised if Samsung didn't actually implement that in the S25 and then trickle it into the S24 and probably S23, at least the 24 anyways. Google will probably do it, but on a more limited basis. Like they'll put it in so that you can use it in email, and along with messaging and maybe certain messaging apps or something like that. A limited functionality, because again, they're going to need that more powerful chip next year.
I think though that the S23 Ultra is probably going to be left out in the cold with a lot of that, because
maybe
some of the S24 features aren't even still available on the S23, and they're not coming to the S23 because it doesn't have that advanced NPU.
Then you're right. You're right. Then without that, and even the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL has Google's version of that processing unit.
Yeah.
It's just that the main chip made by Samsung, or manufactured, pardon me, by Samsung, is not powerful enough to really just say, let's throw everything at it. But next year's, the rumors are already coming out that this thing is not only going to rival anything that Apple is going to put out, not that they have now. And that's saying a lot, because Samsung's next phone should be a contender as well. So if the Pixel actually is going where they're saying, there's a chance it may actually be the most powerful phone on the market for at least a few months until Samsung comes out with the S26. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, I'm
Which is
looking
kinda
forward to
scary.
the S25, which I hope will be out. Late
Yeah.
January, early
Well,
February,
that's too
something like
bad
that.
because you might change your mind about Pixels again when the
Yeah,
10 comes out, 10
no,
Pro XL. You may change your mind and go
no,
back. Come back to the fold, baby.
I'm so embedded now with the whole Samsung ecosystem that it
Oh, you
just
sound like a
doesn't make
sheeple.
sense.
You sound like the sheeple. So
Well,
basically,
if Google had
Samsung
not done what
is
they did to
exactly.
me, I would be
I
still in the Google
Listen.
sheeple.
If that is the reason why, because of what Google did, fine. But as soon as you say, "Oh, I'm stuck in the ecosystem," it sounds exactly like someone
I
working
didn't
on an
say
iPhone
stuck.
who says the same thing.
I didn't
I've
say
talked
I'm
to lots of
stuck.
people say, "I would love to try a Pixel, but oh, then I'd have to do this and I can't use that." And I don't understand. You can use a Mac and a Pixel. You can use a Mac and a Samsung. You can use a Samsung laptop and an iPhone. You can use whatever two you want. Are there certain things and features you may not get? Yes, but there's usually something else that does the job,
Well,
right?
let me be clear. I'm not stuck. I have no problem changing if I want to change or there's enough reason to change.
So that's
There's
what I'm
not,
saying.
it's
There you go.
embedded. I'm embedded into their ecosystem and I don't have any reason to change
Right. Okay.
because
So
everything works perfectly.
yes.
That's my reason.
And I'm saying that when the Pixel 10 Pro XL comes out, you're going to be like, "Oh wow, I think I might give that a shot."
No. Because
I
I'm pretty sure
think
that
you will.
Samsung and Google is going to be like this constantly. So
What if they came
I
out with a
just,
Nexus 5 Remaster XL?
oh my God. Nexus 5 remaster. This
The
isn't a
remaster
video
thing
game.
already.
Yeah.
How about the Nexus 6P remaster? No, please, no, not that one.
Well, how about
Uh,
if they go back to the article, or not article, but the video I sent you with the $11,000 cell phone that was as big
yeah,
as my
yeah,
desk? That
yeah.
was crazy.
Well, Motorola did a remaster of the StarTAC, did they not?
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
something
I mean they
similar.
didn't call
Yeah.
it remaster, but I mean it's the same
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting though. But if that were the case, I would rather have a remastered version of a Nokia 6110, you know,
Yeah.
a candy bar style Nokia 6110 that had all the appeal that had to me then, which was somebody who was just getting into the first time in my life work in an office business like sense. And I was so excited. I was going to have my own cell phone. The company's paying for it. I could drop this thing on the floor and it still worked. Um, I felt like I was all that. Yeah, that I was working for Rogers, so I was selling these items, and I believed in them. But
Yeah.
if you asked me to go out and sell stuff right now, I'd be like, well, I'd want to sell a Pixel because I love Pixels. But if somebody came to me and said, "Well, are there any problems with it?" I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Well,
wouldn't be very good at it.
it cracked me up in that video because they're like, and the handheld unit can be used for up to 30 minutes during a 2-hour period of time, and before you have to charge again. I'm like, you can use
Yeah.
it 30 minutes out of 2 hours, and that's all. What? Doesn't make.
Let's be clear. What he's talking about actually is not even the handheld. So that wasn't even the handheld. I believe that was actually the oh
Oh,
god, I forgot the right
the
term.
purse phone or what?
Yeah, no. Yeah, there was a term for it. It was oh my god, it's something portable,
Yeah,
transportable. And they called it a transportable.
I don't
And
know.
basically it was one that you would actually put in your car and you would have everything installed in the car like good, but this would sit in a bracket and you would just disconnect it. And that thing that you picked up that was in it would basically a battery pack.
Yeah,
Whereas, and at the very top of it would just be where the actual transceiver is. So you would get, what did they say again? It was like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's some
But I
ridiculous.
used to have a brick phone. Mine was actually made by Oki. And I remember always saying, I can't
Yeah.
even tell anybody I had a Nokia in the early days. But apparently Oki had something to do with Nokia, and I don't remember what that was. I'd have to look it up. So it looked like an actual Nokia. 'Cause yeah, Nokia did make phones then. Um, and it was a brick phone. They were a little thinner than the Motorola ones, and the big wide thing. And they did look like a brick.
Yeah.
Literally, you could kill somebody with a bloody thing easily.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. It was my first phone, but it was also like a 2-year-old thing. And people now had ones that you could hold in your hand. I mean, they were still huge. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably an inch and a half thick and this long. They looked like a handset that people would use, like a cordless phone that you would leave on your kitchen table back in the 90s.
Right.
They were about that size and a
Yeah.
lot heavier. But my brick phone was bigger than that, heavier than that. And while their phones could last them a few hours, not of talk time, by the way, like 6 hours of standby and about
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour of talk time. Mine had
Yeah.
about 26 minutes of talk time and about 2 hours of standby. And that was considered good. So I
Yeah.
would turn it off if I wasn't using it. And I didn't need to use it. I took it everywhere. I took it to the bar. I took it to karaoke. I thought I was all of that. I
Yeah.
took a class I was taking, and I thought I put it in a briefcase. I didn't need the
That's hilarious.
briefcase, but I loved it, man. I felt like I was a
Yeah.
important person. And then I got the bill. That stayed on my record apparently for quite some time. I think 7 years. We'll just leave it at that. It just, it,
Yeah.
I was young and stupid. Yeah, you know. Anyways, we're getting way off topic here.
Well, imagine if you're using one of those phones and you had a meter like your electric meter. I imagine you could start seeing it going. As it's spinning up and running your minutes. Yeah, technology, man. It's it's the thing though. It's just like you look back and it's the advancements and
oh
where we're
yeah,
at today
even the
is just
first
like
good
wow.
phones that could last you a good chunk of the day, like an hour and a half of talk time and 5 hours of standby or 10 hours of standby. Those were
Yeah,
considered good compared to the previous models. Those are the first
yeah,
digital phones were in that area, right? Whereas some of the later analog ones in that same era would be almost all day for standby and about an hour and a half of talk time. You could get the same
yeah,
talk time out of the digital ones, but the standby time was reduced hugely. But the plugging in of these things, because at the time, many of them came with nickel metal hydride batteries, which at the time was like the future of batteries. You couldn't pay me to use a nickel metal hydride battery ever again. The memory effect on those was horrid. If you
yes,
charged it when it was at 80%, you can forget ever getting that 20% back. Well,
yeah,
you could. You had to basically. We actually had machines inside the Rogers stores, and I think all of the stores basically did this. Um, they had machines where they could take the battery from somebody's phone because they come, oh, my battery's done, or maybe the ones you're trying to sell even. And you put it on this thing, and it deliberately drains the battery to 100%, and then charges it to full. And that's the only way to get that back. But you still lose at least 10% every time you didn't discharge it all the way, which was
right,
ridiculous. Oh, he's so much
yeah.
fun. So much.
Yeah, now we get mad if we don't get 4 or 5 hours of screen on time and 12 hours
Yeah.
of
Oh, more
2 days
than
of
that.
standby and
More than that. Let's remind anybody listening or watching. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Robert is in the area of Nashville, Tennessee. There is a huge distance. In 1997, she will say 97, 98. If I wanted to call him on the phone, it would have cost me a minimum of $1 per minute. We only talked for 1
yeah,
minute, but there would have
yeah,
been a connection fee on top of that. That would have been a $3 call.
right,
It doesn't cost me anything now.
right,
But back then, the best phone plan that I could get was about $50 a month that allowed me, and you can get cheaper plans, but $50 a month that allowed me, I think, 300 minutes locally, not province wide, not Canada wide, local minutes. Yeah, back then you still had to think about where does local end, right? If in Toronto, there's so
Right.
many surrounding cities that are all attached. It's like living in New York and New Jersey's across the river, or living in Dallas and Fort Worth
Right.
across the street, that kind of thing. So you cross into one other area, you can call this city, but not the next one, and it
Right.
would look considered local. But that city could call back to Toronto, and it would still be local because they don't have a big enough area, and they still have to be able to call back for business reasons, family, and whatever. So that's usually how it worked in most of North America. Whereas places like Dallas and Fort Worth are both big cities attached to each other. So you
Yeah.
could have somebody living in Fort Worth calling somebody in Dallas, and they got to pay long distance.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
you're living across the street from each other. And
Yeah.
I've actually had that in Winnipeg, where we tried to call people from Selkirk, and Winnipeg doesn't go all the way to Selkirk, but you can jog there in an hour. It I might be
Yeah.
exaggerating slightly. It might take a little longer than an hour, but it's extremely close. It's no way you can consider that long distance, but it was until about 2000 or 2001 or something. They considered it long distance call.
Right. Yeah. When I lived in California, of course, such a high populous state, there was multiple zip code or area codes all over the place. And
Right.
so you had to really be careful who you're calling, because whether it was a landline or a cell phone, it didn't matter what it was, you'd end up paying long distance fees.
Oh, that's right, too. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
In the early days, when you're roaming around with a cell phone, the other guy might not care. He's roaming. He's paying his roaming fees. He's wealthy. You call him up on the phone, he answers, yay, and you're talking for 15 minutes, and you're thinking, I'm on my home phone. I'm okay. And he's like, I ain't got the money. I don't care. I'll pay this money. But he doesn't tell you that he's in Van Nuys right now. And you're like, wait a minute. I'm calling you from Malibu. Wait, is Malibu a good example from Van Nuys, or are they too close?
No, that probably, yeah. I mean, that's a good distance.
Okay. Sometimes I confuse the beaches and which one is too further away from the other, because I haven't been there. But yeah, I mean, could you be okay? So a better example, he's calling from Hollywood or something like that, right? Doesn't realize you're in Malibu, or you don't realize he's in Malibu. Because he's in Malibu, you're actually not paying to his phone number. You're paying long distance to where he's actually talking to you from, where he answered the phone from. And I've seen that happen, because I've had people come into my Rogers store and say, well, I called my buddy and he didn't tell me he was in Calgary. Why am I paying long distance? He was the one roaming. I said, yeah, he pays his roaming fees, but you have to pay for wherever he's using the phone.
Right.
And it's still Rogers, but it's long distance. Right? You call somebody else on Rogers from the other city, and man, they just freaked out.
Yeah. And that when I'm in Europe with, Blake last month, I'm calling my wife back here. It's like, doesn't cost me anything. It's like,
you can call all the way back home?
I'm 12,000 or 1,200 miles away.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about using like a video calling app or something, or on the internet.
No,
I'm talking about actual phone numbers.
Yeah, I just pick up my phone and call my wife.
How the hell do you do that?
Because my plan includes,
200
country,
You know what? I just realized I don't have a plan that would include me going to Europe, right? But I could pay for roaming in Europe, that would give me, that all of my home minutes would travel with me, and I'd be able to use the data if I paid extra for that. But that one, I think Rogers only pays per day, right? So, if I went like in the States, I think it's, they raised it. I think it's like $15 a day. And to me, a lot of people say, well, that sounds expensive. I said, you know what? I wouldn't care though. If I was spending $2,500 on a vacation for a week, I would be happy to spend an extra $15 to make sure that I got all of my data.
Yeah.
A few extra $100 and you get all your data.
Before I left, I changed my plan to a different plan on Verizon, because for an extra $5 a month, I could include 210 countries of unlimited calls and texts and 10 gigs of high-speed data per day, as opposed to spending $10 per day for less than that. So I was there 9 days, and I communicate with my wife all the time. So instead of paying $90 for my trip, I'm now spending $5 a month.
Yeah.
And that's going to take me a many months to get $90. You know what I'm saying? So it was like a no brainer. So it's, and yeah, it was most of the time I had great coverage. Actually, there was a lot of places I even had 5G ultra wideband, and I was really surprised by that.
Well,
So
ultra wideband would be a good thing to have. We don't have anything like that in Canada. I mean, we can still get ridiculously fast speeds in some areas, but the difference is we don't need to have, the super speed,
yeah.
because more places have, like, I think I average around 250 megabits per second almost anywhere I go.
Well,
Except for that one time a few days ago, I think I sent you the screenshot. I had like a 1.5 megabits per second or something like that.
yeah. Were you up in the North Pole or something?
I was like 18 blocks from where I live now. I just this one tiny block where there's like next to no service,
Yeah.
and I can't figure out why. Because you
Well,
can see the cell tower from there. You could.
I'll be honest with you. I would rather have a solid, always on 4G LTE signal that was rock solid than to get this spotty 5G and 5G ultra wideband, because it's so up and down. And like, if you move, like I could have 5G ultra wideband sitting here and I could go to my other side of my bonus room and not have 5G ultra wideband. Right. So, I mean, it's like stupid.
Listen, you guys are doing it wrong.
Whatever.
One of the problems is that you have to have a fully standalone 5G, that it works better than when it piggybacks. You may have a 5G that's picking, not the ultra wideband, it has to be on its own. But the rest of the 5G may be piggybacking, which means that it's not stable enough. It's trying to, and you're also not getting the full bandwidth because it's piggybacking off the 4G towers or its equipment. Rogers, basically all of them started out that way because it's too expensive to get the new equipment right out of the gate, right? And they built the technology so that you could build it upon 4G and then move on. So Rogers has now basically got their stuff all on standalone. And I can honestly tell you, there is zero issues with stability with Rogers. The only reason why I had that one problem, as I said, was because there just wasn't a signal there at all. No 4G, no 3G, no 2G, no 1G, no 0G, no cups with a string tied to them, nothing. But what am I trying to say here?
Well, it doesn't matter why the issue is. I would just rather them, have a solid.
Well, of course, but
signal.
What I'm trying to, what I was trying to say, and apparently doing it badly, was that if it's a solid signal, then you don't have that issue. It's not about 5G, and that's I see that, and honestly, I never see anybody but Americans complain about it. This is not a shot at Americans. It's not your fault. It's the fault of the companies that aren't doing it right.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Watch the example of some European countries and most Canadian companies in Canada, where the standalone 5G is perfectly normal. See, here's the thing. They decided, I had nothing to do with it. They decided, I wish I would have a lot more money, right? They decided that they were going to reallocate at every turn, every chance opportunity they had. So the old 800 megahertz, for instance, that only worked on the 2G and some of the 3G networks. The 2G network's gone. The 3G network is now almost completely defunct. So almost all of the 800 megahertz spectrum and 700 has all gone to 5G. So my phone, for instance, might be using 6 channels of 800 megahertz or 5 channels, whatever it is. I don't know the numbers. So forgive me if you do know. I already said I wasn't that smart a guy. But anyways, you get you get X amount of the 800 megahertz channels, a couple of channels of the 2100 megahertz, 2500 megahertz, and you've got the faster speed with that. But when you amalgamate all the other ones together, you've got, again, a more stable and a bunch of smaller amounts of data together, making one big thing of data, plus the faster one. And bam, Bob's your uncle. You've got, 5, 6, 700 megabits per second download speed right now, on the bus, moving.
Yeah, ultra wideband has a way to go before it's
never going to be good because you have
viable.
to be standing almost in with the thing inside your
Yeah.
stomach in order to get it.
Yeah,
A
it's
signal. I've seen videos where a person put a wafer thin pane of glass between its phone during the speed test, and it went from 2.5 gigabits per second to 30 gigabits per second, or gigabits, I mean megabits per second. Moved the glass and it went back to 2.5 gigabits per second. I mean,
yeah.
it's
I believe it.
and other times where he just put his hand like that, just for spec, just like this, but this fast, and it dropped completely.
Yeah.
So
Well, you realize that the biggest detriment to any wireless signal is water, and our bodies are made up of mostly water. So it's people don't realize that those little things matter because it does. We had a wireless network at a school that kept dropping out at certain times of the day. You can never figure out what was going on until
rain. Rain?
No. When class got out and all the students were in the hallway, it killed the wireless signal. We had to relocate the access points. And when we relocated the access points, the problem went away.
What kind of crappy equipment was you using?
Oh, this is years and years and years ago too, though, before it was even.
It was Linksys, wasn't it? I'm just kidding. Don't sue me. I'm just kidding. Don't sue me.
No, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's people don't realize that those little things make a difference.
Well, of course.
Anyways.
I mean, yeah, and obviously it depends on the frequency that you're actually broadcasting.
Sure.
So,
sure.
I mean, the higher the frequency, the less likely you're going to pass through anything, or less things you pass through. And I mean, if your Wi-Fi signal was 6 megahertz, you're going to go through everything. But you're also only going to get about 1 kilobit per second. Speed.
Yeah, you'd be worse than dial-up. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, it's technology is a crazy thing, man. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know. I wanted to have a lot of fun talking about this stuff. So there's going to be a lot of people out there with new iPhones, the current versions of Samsungs, of course, and maybe a few people with Pixels taking a lot of Halloween pictures. It's going to be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to seeing some. You're going to get out. You're going to be out there with the kids at any point? Or
oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're all adults. Everybody's got costumes, so it's going to be a thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's going to be some Halloween pictures then, right?
More than likely, yes.
More than likely, it has to be a yes. I'm going to do some too. We should actually show them. Not all of them, obviously. Pick 2 or 3 really good ones, and and we should show them to our audience next week. Say, yeah, this is what we got. We had some good fun, good Halloween fun.
It's supposed to rain here tomorrow, though, so hopefully, we'll have a break, or it won't be too bad. Maybe sprinkles or something. I don't know. Hopefully,
well, you know what we had last year was freezing, and I mean it was one of the coldest. It's terrible. This year, today it was very summer-like. Tomorrow it's going to be almost the same. There is a slim chance of some rain right around the time the youngest kids get taken out. But once the teenagers and even young adults start hitting the streets a little bit later, it's not only supposed to clear up again, but it's still supposed to be in around 65 to 70 degrees ish at like 8, 9, even 10 o'clock at night. And you keep in mind, again, I'm in Canada. No, I'm not like in Alberta or Manitoba, where it definitely is going to be below freezing by that point, or at least close to it. But it's supposed to be only a few degrees above the freezing level at that time of the day. Maybe several degrees. We're still looking at temperatures that are the same lows you would get in July and the highs would be the same
Yeah.
as August. So
Yeah, I left my work today. It was 81 degrees. It's a very unseasonably warm here as well, and
so it
it's
was 26 or 7 Celsius, something like that. I'm guessing 28. Yeah, you got a little hotter than I thought. I think it was 22 or 23 here. So it was somewhere around, what is that, about 7? No, actually about 78 here. I
yeah,
gotta
it's
check
it's
that out.
it's
Yeah,
it's crazy
you gotta be
warm.
curious. I'm gonna ask my old friend Gemini.
Yeah, yeah, and
The first
it's
22
not expected to
Celsius
get
in
cool until
Fahrenheit.
much later. So I don't know when the temperature's really going to drop here, but it's going to be a while.
Oh no, I was way off. Sorry, 73.4 here is what it was.
Yeah,
So that means you were about 26-ish, 27. Yeah, I was right about that, I guess. And
yeah.
that's hot weather. I guess that's even hot for you for this time of
Oh
year.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yep.
What is it normally around this time, roughly?
Well, it should be in the 60s
So it's about
during the day.
only a little bit warmer than what we should be at. But that's actually we were way above that even today.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely
and we're gonna be
unseasonably
tomorrow.
warm.
So this is going to officially be the warmest Halloween I've ever seen. The warmest one I've ever seen prior to in Winnipeg was about 12 or 13 degrees during the day, and it was still 10 degrees at night in the evening when kids were trick or treating. I was already an adult, so I didn't get to enjoy that. As a kid wearing like a parka and snow pants and having
Yeah,
a costume over top of it. So, you're like a 10-year-old kid, you got to get an adult costume to fit over your snow gear. We've had
that's
years like that.
nuts.
Usually what happens is it would either snow the very next day or snow on Halloween. It's just crazy. It was almost like clockwork every year. And it did that
So I remember when I lived in California when I was younger.
You didn't get no snow.
Well, no, Halloween it was always warm, and so me and my buddy would just jump on our bikes and we'd literally just ride around all the different neighborhoods with a pillowcase for our our candy bucket, just fill a pillowcase up.
That's it. That's the thing I forgot about. We
Yeah,
all used to do that. Kids won't do that now. It's too embarrassing. We did that.
yeah,
Pillowcases. Now they all have to have the special bucket. It's
yeah.
going to be a pumpkin and don't get me wrong, it's great. I love it. I love the kids having fun. Enjoy your life, everything. But yeah, that's it. And you know what? For several years as a child, it was what am I going to go out as Halloween? Hang on a second. Where's the scissors? Let's just cut this out right here. Cut this out right here. You're a ghost.
Yeah, yeah,
I actually
yeah.
did
I
that
used to be
for
like
years.
Santa, my candy bag slung over my shoulder, riding my bike down
Yeah,
the
yeah. Yeah, we did that. I actually
Oh
got
man,
a second pillowcase when you had 2 pillowcases full. People don't realize how much candy you can put in a pillowcase.
Phew.
That's the thing.
Tons,
You can come up with that
tons.
little bag all you want, but the stuff I used to bring back, man. And I don't know what's wrong with kids today, but Tootsie Rolls were the king of you couldn't get better than Tootsie Rolls.
Oh yeah, I love Tootsie Rolls. Still
But
do.
nowadays kids are like, I don't want the Tootsie Roll. Here, give this to so and so. Like, what's wrong with you, man? It's a Tootsie Roll, right?
Yeah,
Or Tootsie Pops. That was like the golden egg, man. The
yeah.
Tootsie
Or
Pop.
what about candy bonbons?
Oh, stop it. He's talking about candy corns. It's because all the French you have to put on the back
Uh,
of Canada. And it was like a no name, not no name, but like a low level brand thing at a dollar
that's
store.
what it said.
So
Candy
instead of saying candy
bonbons.
corn, it said candy corn in very tiny letters at the bottom. And at the top of it said candy bonbons. But they were clearly candy corns.
Clearly.
They weren't called candy bonbons. I should buy another bag of that. I love my candy corn. It's probably sold out
Yeah, I
now because I
love
was too
those.
stupid to buy it yesterday.
Yeah, it's some of my favorite candy.
I have to go to Bulk
I used
Barn.
to make myself sick eating all that.
Do you have a Bulk Barn there, or is that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh,
I can kind of guess what it is by the
vision?
name, but
Yeah, okay, that's good.
you
Bulk
know,
bar.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
You
have
walk
that.
in and there are bins after bins after bins of whatever you would normally find in a package that you can use a scoop to put in your own bag and pay a lot less money for. And I mean,
Mm.
people would buy the cheese um, powder to make mac and cheese, right? Uh,
Oh,
and you can get like two different kinds, even, right? You get like for like $9, $10, you can get enough for like uh like 50 boxes worth, right?
interesting.
And then you just buy the macaroni there too, and you get like huge bags of macaroni. You got enough mac and cheese for a year, and it's cost you less than $20 as opposed to a couple of dollars a box, right? So
Yeah.
make as little as much or as much as you want. But the candy also, I mean, there's like many different types of chocolate bars. Some and most of them all like brand names. So you can go in there and you can get your M&Ms in bulk. I mean, grocery stores did that for a long time. Like a lot of big grocery stores were doing that. It's not as popular anymore. I know
Yeah, I remember.
stores
Hmm.
like they don't do it so much anymore. I'm not sure why they stopped. I think it's just because they were way overcharging for the bulk, you know, in their bins. But bulk barn still charges very little for that kind of stuff. So there's people that will actually go up. But the thing is just anybody who does that for Halloween, you're making a mistake because most smart parents will take it away from the kid and throw it in the garbage. Because
Yeah,
you
they
can't
want it
keep
sealed packages and boxes,
it
and
has
yeah,
to be. If
and
you're
that was like that when I was a kid, though, too.
yeah,
So I
even if
mean,
you're listen, even if you're a little low on funds, and this is a good opportunity for you to be able to have something for your kids, don't let them have anything that is not sealed in a package.
yeah,
Period.
100%.
So you can go ahead and say, "I'll taste it myself," but can you really taste what's not supposed to be? Right? You don't know where.
Not most of the time, really. I mean,
No, you can't. No, that's literally. I mean, like, you don't know what's in anything. The whole point is be safe. They're your kids.
right.
Sealed packages alone. All right, I said I didn't want to do a public service announcement this episode. I wanted to just be jovial, and I went ahead and did a public service announcement. So that better be a short. Anyways,
PSA:
PSA.
only packaged candy, please.
Yeah. But I hope everybody has a lot of fun on their Halloween.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. And you know what? I'm going to say this right now. I know it's going to sound a little bit weird, but if your kids are all grown up and they're gone with their kids, and your mom and dad are still with us, or with you, and they're close to you, get in the car, go see them. It's Halloween. It may not sound like the Christmas, but if they're visiting distance, go see them. If they're not, pick up the phone. It may not be like a Christmas or the birthday or whatever, but say hi, right? Grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads all want to know their kids and grandkids still love them.
Well, you should visit them regardless if it's a holiday
Oh
or
yeah,
not.
of course you should. I'm just saying, just a reminder, another public service announcement. I said I wasn't going to do. I'm just.
That's not really a public
I think I
service
might get
announcement.
off here and call my dad.
That's just good life practice. So
And you know what? You can go ahead and my dad will tell you whether I called him after this or not because he'll watch this and he'll say, "Oh yeah, he did." Mind you,
yeah,
we do a lot of cats in the cradle stuff there, so it may not happen.
yeah. Well, yeah. So everybody, it's spooky time. Have some fun. Enjoy it. Don't get too crazy. Don't eat too much.
Enjoy
But
your
it's
new
a,
Apple Intelligence, if you happen to be one of those Apple people.
yeah. Do you know what? Speaking of which, so do you know how far back the update goes? Like what
What do you mean?
model iPhone are they
Oh,
not
okay.
updating?
The Apple Intelligence itself is only for iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max and up.
Ah,
Everything 16. Um, Anything before that still gets 18.1 and all of the benefits of 18.1, but without the Apple Intelligence.
gotcha.
So they're
All right.
very, very strict about what hardware is necessary for it.
Yeah, I figured. I just didn't wasn't sure where they put the cutoff at. So That's
Well, I
good.
guarantee you,
Good
whatever,
information.
yeah, whatever it is that Google's going to end up doing next year in regards to on-device stuff will be limited probably to the top end stuff, exclusively to next year and beyond.
Yeah.
Simply because it just there's no way. Because if they could do it with this phone, you would be putting it in right now. So there's things they're going to introduce that there's no way this phone will be able to do. They'll have
Right.
trickle down. I guarantee you, they'll trickle down light versions of it though. Like they'll say, oh, well, you'll be able to do this, but it won't do it like that. Or we'll give you this, but you'll have to do it in the cloud, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff too, Samsung will be able to take advantage of, because
Yep.
Samsung is generally using Gemini for its own AI, and it's writing its own instructions on top of Gemini. A lot of people don't realize that. Like they don't even actually say that publicly, but that's pretty much what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they also have their own stuff that's not technically the AI, their algorithms, but Samsung's been doing a good job of that stuff for quite a
Yeah.
while.
Well, there's only a handful of, not even a handful. There's literally what, 3 or 4 companies that are doing, AI that's that's on phones and computers and things like that. So, you have other AI technologies, but they're not so mainstream.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. But the thing is that Apple's thinking that they're going to convince everybody that they're going to have a stranglehold on this, and they're innovating everything. They're introducing mostly stuff that Samsung and Google have already been doing for at least a year, in some cases more.
As has been the past many years.
Yes,
Their...
that's very true. But also everything that they've got coming up that they haven't introduced yet is all either again already on Samsung and or Google, and there's more coming.
Right.
And that's before we get into next year's phones even. So Apple has a long way to go to catch up. And the biggest thing, and that everyone has to remember this, be happy with what you got if that's what makes you comfortable. But remember this very carefully. Apple makes zero AI. It's all Chat GPT stuff in the background.
100%.
When you actually ask it to do this, that, and everything else, yes, the context it now knows and it can understand this. But when it goes to retrieve it, it's still retrieving it, even if it's on device, from Chat GPT or some other model that has to talk to Chat GPT.
Right.
Even when you talk, let's say, ask it Chat GPT questions, that's what it's actually doing. There's certain things where it doesn't give you an auto, like, and this is the demonstrations I've seen from people who already have it, where when they ask it certain questions, it shows them that answer. And that's nice. And it's pretty quick. But this thing is talking back to me. And you know what I'm talking about, because you're using Gemini on your phone too. It's talking back to us. Right. And it's telling us, in addition to giving us this information. So they got a little bit of work ahead of them still. They're actually quite a bit behind, but it's not the worst thing in the world, because eventually they will get a little bit of Gemini in there and Chat GPT. But I have a feeling it's not going to be both. You're going to have to pick and choose which one you're going to use. So,
yeah, I don't know how much Gemini
think
they're going to do, though. I think they're pretty much going to stick with Chat GPT. I mean, I suppose you could probably put the Gemini app. Maybe I don't even know if it's installable on iOS. To be honest with you,
not right now. It's not. They're actually in talks with Google about actually using it. That's the whole point.
I didn't hear that.
They were gonna make Chat GPT almost completely integrated into it, and talks fell through on how that was going. I can't remember. There was a discrepancy, and they didn't like, what they wanted in that model. So instead, they're just using it. So it's like, oh, you can ask Siri to ask Chat GPT. Is basically what you're doing. So you're getting a Chat GPT answer through Siri.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of ridiculous. Personally, that's my opinion. Because if I want AI on my phone, I want the AI to be talking to me, not to just, that's like going to the store and saying, I'd like to talk to your expert about the best lawnmower I could possibly get. And I want it to be electric.
I mean, how's that conversation go? Hey Siri, ask Chat GPT XYZ. And then Chat GPT responds, hey Siri, Tell Lionel.
No, obviously, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's a good example because in my example, I was going to say it's like I go to the store and I ask for this lawnmower, and I say I like to talk to the expert about this lawnmower, and this is what I want, this is what I need, and the guy goes to the back and comes back and says, "Well, what you should get." I say, "So you're the expert then?" Well, no, the expert was telling me what to tell you.
Right.
I want to talk to the expert. Okay, just a second. Okay, he says that he definitely is able to talk to you. What's your question? Could you imagine if that's how you had to deal with somebody in a store? This is how it would be. When I talk to ChatGPT on my phone, I'm talking to it. If I'm talking to Gemini on my phone, I'm talking to it. It's responding directly to me.
Right.
And so when I ask it to turn my lights on, it doesn't say, "Okay, I'll help you with that." And then it says ChatGPT is going to help you with it. Well, I mean, it doesn't do that with lights. Obviously, Siri does that itself, right? Because Siri's capable of that already. So that was a piss poor example, but asking it anything outside of your device is different. I used, and a lot of people say, when are you ever going to use Gemini? I used Gemini probably 30 times today already. And I'm not joking. And some of it was just goofing around, but at least 15 times I used it because I needed either information or for something to be done. And it was able to do that. I summarized a couple of emails, summarized a couple of web pages, and it makes it does make it easier, it does make it better, and sometimes it helps me understand something better. AI can help you understand. See, we didn't talk about that. Wow, we don't have much time. We should do a quick summary of what we didn't talk about. Because it was brought up to me by my dad, by the way. He was talking about how much he loves the summarize feature in the Apple Intelligence. And I get what he's saying. He's wondering now in school, specifically universities, especially, and it could be high school stuff too, tests and essays and stuff when they get written. I mean, you can just get AI to do it. How are they going to control that and know that the students are actually paying attention? Because if I use AI, I'm paying attention to what it's doing so I can learn from it. But if I'm a 15-year-old just trying to make sure that my mom sees that my grade's gone up, I'm going to tell ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever else to do my homework for me. And then I'm going to sign my name at the bottom of it,
right,
and give it to the teacher. Right. How do you, how are they going to police this? It's not that bad yet, but there's no way you can tell me somebody hasn't already done it, and it will get there. So now a lot of people say, yeah, but it's going to get too perfect. But here's some food for thought. What if you're already smart enough that you don't need it? You're just lazy. And that's entirely possible. You can be smart and lazy. So that you can tell the AI to do the essay, but do it more human-like so that it has at least 3 errors and it doesn't look sloppy. It looks neat, but slightly misplaced sentences in at least one spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be that detailed in your AI. And then the teacher looks at it and goes, "Oh, you've made a mistake here." Right? Yeah. And then the next one you tell it, "Don't make any mistakes, but make sure this sentence is not structured properly, but no grammatical." Yeah, you see, just like that, no grammatical errors. Oh my God! I hope my dad doesn't watch that part.
I'm sorry, Lionel. That word is not in the dictionary. That doesn't exist. You just made a new word up.
I'm sorry, I can't help with that. I'm just an
grammatical.
So what do you? I don't know. What's your take on that? Because we're obviously running out of time. So what's your?
No, I think you're spot on. I think it's going to be a really difficult process moving forward, I think, to police any of that. And that's going to go all the way from, grade school up into university, because, kids these days are getting phones way earlier than I was ever.
Yeah. And they got computers and the tablets and everything else too. So.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to completely shield the kids away from
Yeah.
that type of technology. And let's be honest, kids these days are learning things much better, much faster, and much sooner than I could
Yeah,
have
that's
ever
true.
imagined. Really, so
There's also a whole new class of pun intended of kids who um it's not that they're not smart, they just don't care. Like, I why do I need to learn about that? Why
yeah.
do
But back
I care?
back in our day,
Why
we were
do why
paying
do I
the high
know where
schooler.
Mesopotamia was, or what, or something like that, right? And they don't know that at some point, some of the stuff that they're learning is actually going to be necessary. I actually hear like 15-year-olds have said recently, like, where am I ever really going to need math unless I'm an accountant? I'm like,
Yeah,
what do you want to do? Well, I could be an engineer. Without math, no. Construction worker without measuring, no. A
yeah,
cabinet maker, no. A mechanic, no. What are you going to do without math?
yeah.
Almost nothing, right? Can you do janitorial without math? I'm sorry, no. You have to measure liquids.
Well, not if you buy a bucket that's got it written on the side of
No,
it.
no, no. You still have to measure
It's pre-mixed,
everything that goes. Yeah,
pre-mixed,
no. There's only
pre-mixed.
there's only certain things that are premixed. Only certain things that are premixed, and even when there is, you have to add water to them. I
Yeah.
used to do janitorial stuff. Trust me, you can't do it without knowing math.
It's just like how people
Yeah,
cook. Most
it's
people don't
basic
cook
math.
by measuring their ingredients. They just dump it in there and go, "Yeah, that looks about right."
Well, no, that's true. That's true. But you
All
tried doing that
right.
with deadly
So
chemicals. I did.
I'm
There's no
just
way.
saying. I'm just saying.
Math is necessary. There's still many different things that you learn in school are necessary. But the biggest thing is that when you have a conversation with some younger people who, by all rights, should be way more intelligent than me. I was going to say way more smarter, which would mean they are, but way more intelligent than me. In some areas, probably are. But yet, you ask them general knowledge questions, and they're like, "I don't care. I don't know. Why would I know that?" And I'm like, is there anything you like? I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lack of interest, and a lot of people say, "Well, it's because of tablets, and it's because there's 1,000 channels." Kids don't watch 1,000 channels; they watch TikTok.
No, but again, it goes back to the whole how you use something, and it's a tool, and if you use it correctly and as a learning tool, just like a textbook, then it can be beneficial. But if you're trying to make it do your work for you, so you don't have to do it, that's obviously an
No, I
improper use.
completely 100% agree with that. In fact, when I used to go to the library to study for subjects in school, including doing a test or study for an essay, which is what you had to do back in the day. You'd be given your subject for an essay or told to pick a
Yeah.
subject, and you would go to the library. First thing you did was you figured out what you wanted to do about, and then you'd go to the library and you'd head straight for, come on, say it. Come
Comic
on, the card
books?
catalog.
The comic books?
The card catalog.
Oh. Wasn't
That's
sure where
right.
you're going there.
There's
Yeah.
people out there have no idea what the hell I just said. They don't know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Yes, it was a whole shelving system or a thing in the middle or sometimes a whole wall. And you would have to go to A to C, D to M or whatever, right? And you'd pull
Yeah.
this thing out and you would go through it until you found either the name of the book or the author. But you'd have to look in the section whether you were looking for an author, a book, or a subject. And then you'd go to the card catalog and you look, and it
Yeah.
would tell you what row it's in, what
Yeah.
shelf it's
Yeah.
on, and so on and so on. The only thing that would be different would be it doesn't necessarily mean that it's book 4. It could be book 4, 1, or 10 in that row, but it would be on that shelf. And that's how you
Or
look for a book.
or you'd have to go through some microfilm, some
Oh my
microvision.
God, that was even better. Microfiche. I'm sorry, get it right. It's microfiche.
Whatever.
The microfiche. And it wasn't that
Yeah.
micro, really. It was about the size. It was slightly smaller than 8mm film.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd put it in there, and it's like you're looking through a little microscope, and you're looking for the, that news
Yeah.
article or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much fun. But see, the thing is,
Uh,
there weren't, don't get me wrong, there were kids back then that would just go there and they would jot down the notes of whatever was important and they would get the necessary stuff they needed to pass. When I did it, I actually wanted to learn about what I was trying to write about. I had a thirst for knowledge. So I know there are still going to be kids that are going to do that. So some of them will use the AI and actually learn from what the AI is telling it. If they're doing that, then actually having the AI write it for them is not that bad, because they can then take that and use their own writing. Or you could even say to AI, okay, I want to say exactly what you said, but I need this sentence to be this. Change it. Now you're technically making it your own and you're learning from it. So I can
wait, oh,
understand that. And some teachers will actually start to allow that kind of thing as long as the student can prove that they learn from it. So here's my suggestion for any teachers that might see this and wonder, what am I going to do about the AI situation? Um, if you have that kind of thing come up, then you have the student actually let them hand it in and then give them an oral test and see if they understand it. Not for the whole essay, but see if they understand what they supposedly wrote or had AI do. If they show an understanding of it, then they should get a higher grade, or whatever grade you think is highest for the work that was done, based on the fact that they understand what they asked it to do and what it did.
yeah. Or you could just go to Reader's Digest version, Cliff Notes, and
It was, well, that's kind of it. You summarize it. I mean, honestly, because you can do that. You can go and say, oh, well, I need to learn this information about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's an easy essay thing in grade school for a lot of Americans, right?
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln. So you know, and back in the days, again, you do the card catalog, blah 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 blah, or you go to the school library, most likely, and it would be there. Still card catalog though. But nowadays, you can just, up until very recently, you would Google Abraham Lincoln. You go through Wikipedia, then you would check all the sources from at the bottom of Wikipedia and check all the individual sources. And then you would make up your mind, I'll take this sentence, and then I'll just rewrite a couple of words. If you were smart, you would rewrite some of those words and not just, regurgitate it, right? But now you can actually put one of those, or actually even more. You can put 2 or 3 of them into, what do you call it again? The Google one.
Gemini? Is that what you're talking about?
Notebook.
What are you talking about? What Google
Notebook
one
LM.
what?
Notebook LM. Yeah, you can put those into Notebook LM, and you can tell it that you want it to summarize the whole thing. And then once you see the summary, you read it over and you go, okay, I can write this out, skip that, add this, and you can change all the notes and then tell it to analyze the rewritten summary of it and make it into an essay, and it will write the entire essay. And you can specifically say it has to sound, read like a human being wrote it. And you again can tell it to leave at least 1 or 2 errors randomly in it.
That's crazy.
Or no errors, but move it around. But again, if you're demonstrating that you're learning from it, then I don't have an issue with it, because it's helping you learn. That's just the key.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But they're going to have to police it somehow.
And I do think what I said is probably the best method, is that teachers should just basically do a quick oral exam with the student to make sure they understand what they handed in. If they can show an understanding of it and that they've learned from it, then it should count. Yeah, because you're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of the AI. There's nothing they can do about it, because you can get the AI and then write it out by hand yourself, right? So,
right.
So
yeah,
that's my opinion.
I agree. I think I think you're right. It's all about learning, and if you whatever tool I think you can use to actually learn, I don't see why you can't use it or shouldn't be able to use it.
Absolutely.
As long as you say, like you say, is actually creating knowledge and not just eliminating your workload.
Precisely. Well, with that said, we probably should call it a week.
It's the end of our workload for right now.
Yeah. I will say, please join us next week. Kind of a big thing. If you're into photography, I am going to talk about something that I originally thought about talking about today, but I knew we weren't going to have time, so I didn't bring it up. I have discovered, and I'm sure there's people that know this, but I've never seen it written anywhere, that you can get more information from your sensor than you think on at least the Pixel 9 Pro XL, but I'm starting to think that it's almost any, at least flagship phone, or at least good phone. I'll explain all of that next week. You really got to watch or listen, because it's quite fascinating. If you're watching, I will show you examples of why that's true. I hope Tony Northrup is actually able to see this, because I know he would love to know this. He probably already does know.
So don't forget,
and I know you're
like, subscribe, hit the bell, because otherwise you won't get notified.
That's right. Exactly.
So
happy Halloween, everybody, from Toronto, Canada. Lionel.
Happy Halloween from Robert in Nashville. We'll see you next week.
Oh, I don't want to say that one. I can't get my goodbyes right. Yeah.